that there's like Sex in the City has taught people that, being free with your sexuality and all that kind of stuff is the road to uh enlightenment or whatever. But I don't think the reason Christ was probably telling her go and sin no more is it's bad for you to sleep around. It it doesn't it it doesn't create a lasting relationship. It makes for
Well, I mean, this is a different time. This, like, at the time, he's just a hero because he saved her from dying.
yeah,
like,
yeah.
like that's the,
Hello and welcome to the Brothers Random Show. My name is Travis,
I'm Michael.
and we are two ordinary brothers discussing extraordinary ideas and some random shit. So the topics on the show range from theology, masculinity, stories, movies, philosophy, books, pop culture, and many other subjects. We often talk about the people we admire and the wisdom they share, people such as Dr. Jordan B. Peterson, who we believe is the sage of our time. Michael, why are we here?
Today we are talking about Jesus.
What kind of freak ass store is this? And you two motherfuckers need Jesus. Cover your ears, babies.
My favorite subject, but in more of the context of, was Jesus woke? Or better yet, what would Jesus think of our day and age?
Of our current society. And let's just acknowledge the elephant in the room. We're probably going to piss a lot of people off with this. Michael.
Oh, yeah. Both sides.
If you're new to the channel, Michael and I were both raised in a polygamous Mormon compound. We have since left. We have since left Mormonism, for lack of a better way of putting it. And we still believe in religion, and we still believe that religion is important. But we're gonna delve into some, and neither one of us are theologians. We are not trained in theology, but we have studied the Bible. We have studied many religious texts. So we're going to get right into it. So what did you want to start with, Michael?
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe the last time you guys looked, the Bible's a pretty big book. Yeah. So if we miss anything, tell us in the comments below. Have a discussion. Agree to disagree.
Be respectful.
Be nice. Be nice.
That's like asking. That's like asking water to go uphill. Is asking the internet to be nice.
The internet to be nice. Don't thread a whip and go whip anybody.
Yeah.
Oh wait. Well, maybe you should. I don't know. Yeah. Let's see.
That's what we're gonna talk about. So, do you want to start with was Jesus aggressive?
Yeah, let's start with that. Let's start with the whipping.
So the story is that Jesus made a whip. People have speculated on whether it was a cat of nine tails or whatever, but he basically made a whip. He was enraged by a sacred. So the temple in Judaism is a very sacred place, and so he has vendors, basically merchants, selling animals for sacrifice in the temple, and they're on the temple grounds and they're exchanging money, and this enrages Jesus. I don't think he was a socialist, but Jesus didn't like the idea of turning, and I guess the quote is, "You've turned my father's house into a den of thieves." And so he basically gets mad and runs through the temple and throws over the tables, and he casts them out. Is the quote? He casts the merchants out. If you want to read into it, he probably beat up a few guys, and but this idea of modern society with Jesus, people think Jesus is like like a peace, love, and dope kind of guy, kind of have long beard and beads and kind of sit on the side of the road and, hey man, do you, man, that kind of thing. But I mean,
to that, John Eldridge in his book Wild at Heart, he kind of he had a problem with this kind of
image,
and he called it Mr. Rogers with a beard.
Yeah,
we've built this persona of Jesus being this all loving, all kind of just do you kind of person, and nice, right?
Yeah, nice. Nice is always
nice guy.
The nice, but Jesus basically beat up a bunch of dudes and told them to get out of the temple because he was looking at this kind of desecration of the house of God. And so this is kind of what angered Jesus. And this goes back to do
you want me to just tell the reference?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's John 2.
It's in like all three of the it's in Matthew, Mark, Luke. The story is told 3 different times.
Yeah, okay, so this is in John, and one of them, and I haven't gone and read each one, but I want to say one of them, it says he went, sat down, and threaded the whip.
This version in John, he actually says he threaded a cord or something.
Made a scourge. That's when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the tables. It
sounds like a fit of rage.
Like a brawl.
It sounds like a fit of rage. Yeah.
He overthrew the tables. Yeah, overthrew the tables, man.
He's like throwing them. Yeah. I mean, so were you done?
And said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence, make not my father's house an house of merchandise. And his disciples remembered that it was written, the zeal of thine house hath eaten me up. The zeal of thine house hath eaten me up. Anyway, that was, so the den of thieves is probably another gospel, one of the other gospels.
Yeah, it's quoted as you've made my house into a den of thieves. I believe if I'm remembering correctly, but like I said, we're not scholars in this. We're just regular guys just talking about this, and I like the idea. So this image of Christ that we've all come to know in the last probably 20, 30, 40 years is this very passive, passe, loving and kind person. Now, I believe he was all of those things, but this particular story shows that he was an aggressive person when it came to righteous anger. And we don't talk about righteous anger enough. We really, really don't. We should be angry at the fact that that everybody's trying to hoist this gender ideology on our society that has literally wrecked sexual norms among human beings, and we should be angry about it. And
we should be angry that they're trying to change it so that we don't say pedophiles anymore, that they are minor attracted persons, right?
Yeah,
we should be angry that they're trying to change these things. Yeah.
Well, they're changing literature rather than, or changing words, that rather than say what a woman is, they'll say what is it? A breast or chest feeding individual, or a uterus having individual, or no, she's a woman. and she bears children, and she also has her superpower, which is to feed that child from her body. And and this has become this, and we should be enraged by it. We should. And, the quote is perfect. The quote, "You have turned my father's house into a den of thieves." That's exactly what this country has become. It's just a den of thieves. We're just a bunch of, assholes telling everybody else how to live their life and what to live their life like. So I really like this idea of Jesus being he did get angry. He did get, I mean, this story is preceded immediately by the fig tree story, where it wasn't bearing any fruit and he was hungry, and he basically said, you will no longer bear fruit. Now, there's a ton of people that think that that's a pointless story, but maybe if we read into it, when something doesn't do what it's supposed to do, it may be cursed for all time. And that's how I read that story. The fig tree story.
The fig tree. Okay.
Because the fig tree story happens immediately before the rage story, the temple story. And I mean, more people probably talk about the fig leaf story, or fig tree story. But I was reading that and I was like, oh, this is interesting, because it's almost like, and people are like, well, why would Christ do that? Why would he curse the tree to never bear fruit ever for any man? Well, I think it's more of if you and I have talked about meta truths a lot, and we believe the Bible is more of a meta truth than an actual, like, this actually happened. And maybe this happened. I'm not here to argue that. But the story itself is what I think it's saying, is like, if you are not doing what you are meant to be doing, then you are cursed to never do
it. So you're cursed that you're never going to produce the fruit.
Yes.
Interesting. Well, I mean, if you're never going to do it, then you're never going to do it. So, I mean, does
maybe
the cart come before the horse, or I don't know, but it might just, I mean, maybe it's one of those things. It's like, if you're never going to, maybe push yourself to make money. Let's just say,
to be
an example.
Great,
if you're never going to push yourself to make money, God's not going to, maybe the curse is that you're not going to just receive money by the lottery or something like that. I don't know, but that
just
does
have
happen
it handed to you.
Like, that does happen to some people.
But that's a lot of people. A lot of those people are cursed after that.
That might have a little more to do with, like, from those that are. It's the Matthew principle. The Matthew principle is, generally speaking, those who those who do well actually do well exponentially, and those who do poorly will do worse and worse
as time goes by,
regardless. And that's the kind of the Matthew principle. But and it's kind of interesting, because in organizations they'll see this, where literally most of the time 80% of the work is done by 20% of the workers.
Yeah.
Like, well, and it's kind of across the board. And I think JP was pointing this out, that it's even in nature.
Well, not only that, but it goes into, like, companies. Like, 20% of the companies of the world produce 80% of the goods.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So if
that's probably correct. Yeah.
So, like, if you're Amazon or let's say, like, iPhone is, maybe it's a big company, right? But it probably produces 80% of the phones in the world, and it makes up for 20% of the workforce of the world. So, and probably even less than that. It's probably something like 2% of the workforce of the world.
So the fig tree story might have more to do with the Matthew principle.
Yeah, probably.
Then
that's just how I kind of interpreted it in the moment of reading it, because I don't remember.
Yeah.
So a lot of these things that I learned in Sunday school class, I've mostly either forgotten or they never bothered teaching us. Because you don't want to teach the story of Jesus getting aggressive, because then that gives the children kind of the, oh, Jesus got aggressive. He turned over the tables in the temple. Well, yeah, you want to teach children that, because you also want to teach them aggression needs to be channeled to do right. And you don't, our society is so obsessed with eradicating aggression. They are obsessed with getting rid of aggression. And you've said this quote before. I don't remember who it's from, but the same aggression that fights wars is also the same aggression that builds bridges. Those are the same two aggressions. They're just channeled differently. They're just made to go in a different direction. And I like this story because it's based on this idea that what is it? It's a peaceful man is not a good man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man who has it under control. And that's a Jordan Peterson quote. And I'm paraphrasing it, of course, but
a harmless man is not a good man. A good man is a very, very dangerous man who has that under voluntary control. And
that is by and far the best way to read the story of Jesus getting really aggressive about something that he was very passionate about. Because in Judaism, the temple is very sacred, and in Mormonism, it's the same way. Mormons took a lot from Judaism and they decided to have temples as well. And the Temple Mount is very sacred in Israel. This is all stuff that's very sacred to them. And seeing bartering and merchants enraged Christ, and he did something about it. And so as Christians, we need to do stuff when the peaceful Christian, I think the time for the peaceful Christian is over. I think we need to start doing something about all the BS that's happening in our society right now.
I never want to revert to any kind of violence, but just not. Like maybe more standing up for your truth. Your truth, right? Standing up for your beliefs, putting your foot down when things like a natural born male comes onto your girls swimming team, right?
Yeah.
Like rather than everybody just shutting up about it, standing up against those things that are happening, right?
Yeah.
So it might be just a reminder that Jesus had teeth, right? And he could sink those teeth in when needs be. And that's right. Oh, well, I don't want to say anything at my,
PTA meeting or whatever.
PTA meeting because I don't want to hurt any feelings. I mean,
when they start allowing boys to go in the girls' bathroom, no, you
right?
need to
or
speak
these
up
books,
at that point.
These books that have gotten into the kids' schools and stuff like that. These pornographic books, and things like that, right? Like where Christians need to kind of stand up and have a spine and say, no, we're not going to stand for this.
Yeah.
Right. The other story that I think gets a lot of what I would say flack to the gun owning community, I guess you could say, is Jesus tells he has this where he says, he who lives by the sword shall die by the sword. He doesn't exactly say that. I'll actually pull it up. That's Matthew 26:52. This is when I don't know how many, but it says many people came with Judas to come get Jesus. Okay. And
this is right out after the Garden of Gethsemane.
I believe so.
It's around about the same time.
This is when they take him to get crucified. But ultimately, this is when he goes to get crucified, right?
Yeah.
And behold, one of them that were with Jesus stretched out his hand and drew his sword and struck a servant of the high priest and smote off his ear. And then Jesus said, then said Jesus unto him, put up again thy sword unto his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish with the sword. Who take up the sword. No, take the sword shall perish with the sword. Now, a little bit of context. This is a large group of soldiers that came to get Jesus. And one of his disciples, or those that were one of those that was with him, I've seen this depicted as actually Peter that did it.
Don't
wonder
know
if in the other gospels he might have
mentions
said,
Peter, probably.
I guarantee that they're setting it up, and I haven't seen it yet. But I've watched have you seen some of the Chosen?
A little bit. I haven't really revisited it.
They're awesome. It's awesome. I love it. I watched the first several seasons, and apparently I think it just came out on like Amazon Prime or something like that. So I got to watch the rest of it. But the character that Peter is, I could just see it. They were setting him up because he's kind of spritey.
He's kind of hothead. He's kind of
he's kind of hot-headed. Yeah. Peter's just kind of hot-headed in it. And
they're setting him up to be the guy that actually
cuts off this ear. Yeah. And then I'm pretty sure actually Jesus healed it as well. I think he healed the ear. Anyway, but that saying, he who lives by the sword shall die by the sword. Now, all these men come to get him, and one of his guys takes out a sword and cuts off one of their ears. Now, was Jesus just stopping all of these men from killing all of his disciples right then and there? It's possible that is what was going down right there.
He's got.
You can read 12, what you want to into it, but
he's probably got 12. He's got 12 guys with him, right? So 12 disciples. So there's 13 of them, and maybe they had an entire garrison come after him. So if an entire garrison is sitting there waiting to take them out, he could have just been saying, if you are going to fight all these guys, you're going to die right now. So let's not do this.
And it's like Jesus has a greater work for beyond what happens here. Right.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean, he does have to go die for our sins, right? Like that has to go and happen.
That has to happen.
And then, but if all of his disciples get killed off, like right now, that's bad for the rest of the story, right? I've been teaching you guys for months now, and it's like, okay, so
is that a pacifist statement, do you think?
That's what I'm saying is I don't necessarily think now it is some wisdom, right? Like this is some real wisdom, right? If you're a gangster and you're carrying around a gun and you're
in Chicago somewhere, and you're dealing drugs and all that kind of stuff, you're probably going to get shot at some point.
You're probably going to get killed. That's probably, if you live that life, that's probably how you're going to get killed.
So it is,
right?
It is kind of a wisdom. It's more of a wisdom thing, far less than it's a pacifist thing, right? So it's more of like,
I think so. Yeah.
If you add some logic to it, it's like, if you're running around getting into fights all the time, you are most likely going to die in a fight, or
that might be what kills you, right? If you are road raging all the time, running people off the road all the time, like eventually
it'll catch up with you, right?
Something like that, those kinds of things catch up with you. Now, my thinking is like, think about the context here. Mm-hmm. If he's just like, whoa, hey guys, all right, put your sword away. Let's not do this, because guess what? These guys will kill you. So let's play our cards right. And I'm going to go. And
I'm going to fulfill my purpose.
And it could have been very confusing sentiments, because most people don't know, before this now this is in Luke tells us that Jesus tells his disciples to go buy swords. Now, not a lot of people actually know this story, but in
I
Luke 22, and this is Jesus, and he said unto them, when I sent you without purse and script and shoes, lacked ye anything? And they said nothing. Now, this is when he told them to go preach the gospel, and he told them to go out there without purse and script, right? And then he says, then said he unto them, but now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his script, and he that hath a sword, let him sell, or he that hath no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. So now, if you were to read a little bit into that, it almost seems like they were out preaching the gospel, and now he's like, all right, guys, now you need to be packing. So it almost seems like maybe he was setting them up to fight, and then all these guys come to get Jesus, and one of his guys is like,
I'm gonna fight.
Oh, he told us to get swords like a little bit ago. Here, yeah, let's get them. But it might have just been like, Jesus here. Whoa. Okay.
You're all gonna.
All right. Yeah, I know.
I don't want you all to die.
I know a week ago I told you to get swords, but I don't want you guys to die right now. So let's scale this back a little bit. So anyway, it's interesting to me.
Well,
one is that he tells them to go get swords is just kind of odd. That's not told a lot, and not a lot of people know that. And a lot of people putting on this Mr. Rogers with a beard on Jesus, this nice guy, this passive person. But he also was telling his disciples to go buy swords.
I wonder if you could read into that as more like with the men who know how to use their swords but keep them sheathed will inherit
the meek shall inherit the earth.
Yeah. Wonder if that's more along the lines of let's be prepared for something in case. You know, because if a lot of people were, so if the Pharisees were kind of stirring up the populace to really hate Jesus and his disciples, you would think that packing a sword would maybe show some intimidation, like, don't mess with me. I'm capable of taking care of myself while they're out preaching the gospels.
I mean, if you want to read more into it, read what's not there, but just kind of guess is like, okay, so he says the meek shall inherit the earth, and meek being, if we go with, Jordan Peterson's description, which is those who have swords, know how to use them and keep them sheathed, right? Okay. Well, what happens when you unsheathe that sword is war.
Yeah.
You get war. Okay. So you and maybe that's what he's warning against is he's like, all right, you got swords, you know how to use them. You keep them sheathed, but realize, buddy, if you unsheath your sword, that may be the end of you, right? Like if you start, and this could, I mean, really, this could go towards like, this show, we haven't seen it yet, but this show Civil War, right? They're talking like, and we've got a lot of people that are upset with the country and the leadership and everything. It's like, guys, when shots are fired, when first shots are fired, then guess what?
Yeah, you're bringing about war. That's what
people die.
Yeah.
You live by the sword, you die by the sword, right? Yeah. People are going to die. And that, I don't want that. Yeah. They don't want that. Nobody wants that, right? So maybe that's a pretty good warning for the situation. Although maybe be meek, have your sword
maybe have your sword ready. I tend to not really like the pacifist Christ. This makes him more of a, hey, let's show some. It's good. It goes back to the 10 commandments. Everybody interprets it as thou shalt not kill. It's better to interpret it as thou shalt not murder. Because kill and murder are two separate things. And most people don't know this. Most people don't think of this. You can kill in defense. In murder, you are victimizing someone.
Mm.
You are murdering for, maybe you're trying to steal something from somebody and you murder this person in the process. That is a murder. But if somebody's trying to steal something from you and you kill them, that is a kill. You are not, you are no longer, if you are killing in defense, I don't think you're going to be judged as harshly as if you victimize somebody. So I think Christ's teachings and the 10 Commandments, they're all meant to keep people from victimizing each other.
Mm-hmm.
If you create a victim by going and stealing somebody else's wife, you've created the husband is the victim.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Right?
You created a victim. Yeah.
You created a victim.
Well, and when Jesus was asked which of the commandments are the greatest, and Christ basically breaks down the 10 commandments into 2 commandments, because there's 5 commandments that are about loving God, and there's 5 commandments about loving your neighbor. And so, and he breaks down and he says, the first commandment is love God with all thy heart, might, mind, and strength. And the second is like unto it, love your neighbor as thyself. And upon this lies all the law and all the prophets. Now, and so it's love God, love man.
Yeah, love God, love man. That's pretty much, yeah. It's more of a boiling it down to the bare minimum, without the all the complexities of figuring out the meta truth, like what we're doing here.
Yeah, and all the laws they're breaking down in the Old Testament are, they've got stuff like if your ox, breaks into your neighbor's field and he gouges your neighbor, then you have to recompense your neighbor because your ox went and hurt your neighbor. Like all these things about just like kind of getting along, right?
Yeah.
It's
more or less to
being
keep
good,
people
being good to each
along.
other.
Yeah.
But anyway, to that, I just thought of that while you were kind of saying that.
Yeah.
Is the laws are built so that you love God, love others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's meant to be to be peaceful towards them, right? Because the nature of man is to steal and take away and victim. Like I said, it's basically to not create victims. So if you can live your life and never have created a victim, then you're living a pretty good life, because you haven't stolen from somebody, you haven't killed somebody, you haven't, or I should say, murdered somebody.
Yeah.
You go through life trying to be the best that you can be to your neighbor, to the people on earth.
And that being said, that I think we got a wrong idea of what love is, because just because you love somebody doesn't mean that you don't say no to them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like if my kids just want to eat ice cream every day, I love them too much to say yes. to that. Right.
Yeah.
So that love comes with rules, and people nowadays, everybody wants to remove all the rules, right?
Yeah. From
it's
love.
just
yeah. It's like, if you
from love.
me,
Yeah.
if you love me, you let me do whatever. And it's like, no, it's a lot like, the people who love you the most are going to be the people who are most critical of you. They're gonna
do better, right? Because they
right?
believe that you
have
can do
better potential in your life. You have so much more to offer. And if they truly believe that and they truly love you, they're going to tell you that. They're not going to tell you how great you are. They're going to encourage you to be greater. And our society is too based on the compassion to our society is too compassion based.
Yeah.
Because if you only tell a person how great they are when they're not great, they will not be great. They will not get better. They will stay the same. And it's like the tough love. It's tough love.
Yeah. Have you seen some of these? There's like whatever podcasts, there's a few others where they get these Christian OnlyFans workers on.
Yeah, jeez.
Like, God loves me no matter who I sleep with, kind of stuff. So let's get into that a little bit, because the story is that a woman was brought to Jesus to be judged for adultery.
Yes.
And they were kind of gonna try to trick him, right? So
that's what all these are. These are like the tests of Christ. Is the Pharisees would get these ideas and they would go, oh, hey, we have the laws of the land. We're gonna throw this idea at Jesus and see if he abides by that law. That was the whole.
Yeah.
It was an entrapment. Is
an entrapment. So now, and they said unto him, now Moses in the law commanded us that such should be stoned, but what sayest thou? This they said, tempting him, that they might have to accuse him. But Jesus stooped down, and with his finger wrote on the ground, as though he heard them not. So when they continued asking him, he lifted up himself and said unto them, he that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. Okay. So now he's saving her life. Let's be honest. She's not going to die now. Right. And I actually have heard from very liberal types that Jesus was a progressive.
Because he was saying that,
because he saved her life, right? They were going to kill her. They were going to stone her.
The law is that if a woman was committing an adultery, that she would be stoned to death.
And again, he stooped down and wrote on the ground. Now, I remember reading a Christian magazine, and they were claiming that he was actually conversing with God, that he was writing to God, to his Father, at this moment. I don't know. It's kind of interesting that he stooped down and he wrote in the sand, and kind of meditatively.
To me, it's a stalling tactic.
Yeah, I think so.
He was probably just thinking,
maybe thinking through what to do.
Yeah,
that might be. I was thinking that too, just kind of working through what to do.
Yeah,
but he goes back to working through, because now he's got to tell her what to do, right? So, no. Let's see. Wait, I skipped ahead. So, and again, he stood down and wrote on the ground, and they which heard it, being convinced by their own conscience, went out by and by, beginning at the eldest, even unto the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman standing in the midst. So their conscience got to him,
And they were like, yeah,
he who has no sin, cast the first stone. All right. Well, their conscience got to him and they all walked off. When Jesus had lifted up himself and saw none but the woman, he said unto her, Woman, where are those thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said unto him, No man, Lord. And Jesus said unto her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go and sin no more. So,
so does this story give OnlyFans the right to just keep doing what they're doing? I don't think so.
The point is, he says, go and sin no more, right? Like if you're living that way, and all these, this goes back to the Mr. Rogers with a beard, right? This notion of, well, Jesus would love me no matter who I sleep with, no matter what it is that I, do. It's like, oh, but I'm just being me, and that's just who I am and stuff. And I mean, it's just, that goes back to just people, excuses for everything, rules out the door,
justifying my bad behavior.
It's kind of the world that we live in right now. It's like, well, rules are constricting, and so we don't want those rules. And now it's kind of turned into this shit show where people are taking their goats to prom.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyways,
so the fact that he tells her go and sin no more, I think that's the capper on the story, because
this might be the capper on the story. Actually, let me read this last verse.
Okay.
Then spake Jesus unto them, saying, now unto them, I think, is his disciples.
Yeah,
right?
Probably.
Saying, I am the light of the world. He that followeth me shall not walk in darkness, but shall have the light of life. Now, this is one of the things with those OnlyFans girls where they're just, I don't know them, right? They're probably nice people, right? But is there a light that's being just like slowly killed,
burn out by giving into this depravity,
by doing that? I could be wrong. I don't know these people, so I could be wrong.
I can't imagine,
but I seem to think that there would be a light
themselves.
that would just slowly kind of die. That's the point of the story of Les Miserables, right? This poor woman was, getting involved in
prostitution,
in sex work, and she was just slowly dying.
It had taken the. So people are all about not shaming sex workers now, and it's like, but they're shaming themselves. I mean, yeah, you're going to make a bundle of money, but then where is your soul? And not like the soul as the Christianity, like we think of the soul. Like we're thinking of the soul as like, saved by Jesus and by God and by religion and all that kind of stuff. No, what happens to your being? You're going to get into a nihilistic place if you keep this up. You're going to get to a place. It's like the Bridget Fennessy very long article. It was a beautifully written article, and if anybody can go check it out, it's very available online, called why what was it called, Michael? Why I regret being a slut.
I regret being a slut.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, it's a very long essay, but it basically goes into this idea that she had been sold this bill of goods that sleeping around was completely legit thing that she should be doing, and she was doing it. But she had this moment where she had a guy send her a text that she had like a one night stand with, and he said it was very loving and caring and kind, and she was like, "Oh, hey, thanks for that text," and he was like, "Oh, that was for someone else." Like he accidentally sent her this loving, kind gesture, and she felt like crap because she had had one night with him, and she wasn't the girl that he had sent this to. And so she was just like, I don't like this lifestyle. I don't like what I'm doing. And maybe some women do. You know, that there's like Sex in the City has taught people that, you know, being free with your sexuality and all that kind of stuff is the road to enlightenment or whatever. But I don't think the reason Christ was probably telling her go and sin no more is it's bad for you to sleep around. It doesn't create a lasting relationship. It makes for
well, I mean, this is a different time. This like at the time he's just a hero because he saved her from dying.
Yeah.
like that's a hero act just in itself. Because I mean, honestly, she was probably betrothed, given to some guy that probably didn't love her. Like she didn't love him.
Have you
she
ever
fell in love with someone else? I don't know.
Have you ever heard the theory that it might have been his wife?
I heard that, and
Christians don't like this theory because
I can't remember if that came from our polygamous cult, or if that was if that came from somewhere else. Because
so the theory is that why would they have brought her to him? Well, one of the reasons they brought her to him is to try to entrap him.
Mm-hmm.
But the theory is that most of these moments would have brought the woman who was being unfaithful to her husband
Yeah.
To see if he was going to exact justice on her. And if you kind of read into it that way, I mean, there's no proof. This is just a theory that maybe she was his wife, and that
I just remember when Da Vinci Code came out, this was all the talk. Was Jesus married? Like it was
that was
the talk. The whole Christian community just lost their goddamn minds.
Yes,
and they're just like, no, he wasn't married. Yes, I think he actually was married. And they're like, it was kind of insane. And because spoiler, Da Vinci Code, they talk about that, yes, he was married and he had children, and that was like the whole point of
his bloodline was
like his bloodline, blah blah blah. It was kind of the point of the story. Anyways, which I love the show. I love the book. It was fun. It was great. I thought it was fun.
But Christians want to think of him as never committing the carnal sin, which is to have intimate relations.
And I mean, if we're honest, that could have stemmed a lot from the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
As the Catholic Church kind of
pushes this idea.
Nothing against the Catholic Church.
No.
But they do uphold their priests as, I guess, not higher, but just they're not supposed to
be driven relations. They're not supposed to be driven by a sexual need, even though that's backfired. The unintended consequences of celibate priests is that they start messing with little boys.
And it's also, I mean, I think it probably stemmed more from just that the priest was supposed to be given a lot of responsibility, and they didn't want a family to suffer from
that
him needing to be doing all the responsibility for the church,
for the parish or whatever. Yeah.
I guess I don't I don't get it. I don't see it, but yeah.
I like the idea of the woman being his wife, because if that's the case, then he had enough. He wasn't enraged by her infidelity. He was like, I'm going to save your life, and then I'm going to tell you to go sin no more. Which essentially, if that's true, he's basically divorcing her. He's not going to continue to be involved with her because he's going goodbye and sin no more.
Yeah.
So, and the Jewish law, I mean, I'm sure there was heavy laws against divorce, heavy laws against infidelity, all of that stuff. But, and you would have to be a pretty terrible woman if you were married to the most righteous man in the world and you started screwing around on him. It's like, you are.
Would that be irony?
Yeah, the irony. The irony. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if I buy into that theory, but I don't know.
Maybe he needed to experience all things. Like,
yeah, because if he needed, it would show that he was truly the Son of God. Because if I would not be a good enough man to not be completely enraged if I found out that my wife was cheating on me. And the same goes for almost any red-blooded man in the world. Even women, women, they find out their husband's cheating on them. They do not want to stay in the marriage. They get out of it. They are over with it. And then they take everything that they can. They're hurt. They're, and so it says a lot about him if he's like, well, yeah, you did this. You don't deserve to die. I'm not that kind of person, but I'm not going to stay with you either. So go and sin no more. It makes sense. I like it as a theory. I don't know. It's maybe not. Maybe it's a bridge too far for most people. Any final thoughts?
So reading these, it makes me kind of want to I guess just get to know Jesus a little bit more. Yeah. I know there was a time where he called some Pharisees vipers. Like, I mean, the guy had some thick skin, and he's just like,
he had venom. Like, people don't think that he did, but he did. And that's what's so fascinating. So if you were to take the greatest hero of mankind, you could probably say it would be Moses or Jesus, right? The two greatest heroes in the Bible, probably.
Yeah.
And you would say, yeah, he's a pretty major big deal. And he had enough of a restraint but he wasn't venomless. He could be brutal if he needed to be. And we're in a society now where we need more, maybe a little bit more aggression, channeled aggression.
Yeah. Rightly channeled. Yeah. That's what I'd say.
Or righteous anger is maybe a better example.
Maybe so.
Anyway, thanks for that, brother. That has been our Bible study for the year.
We should do it more.
We should. Check us out on social media, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just look for The Sword in the Skull. Leave us a comment on our video. Like, share, and subscribe. There's all the begs. Listen, this is a discussion. We're having a discussion. If you want to join in on the discussion, leave a comment. It's as simple as that.
Tell us what you think.
Yeah. We're used to getting hate comments, so even if you want a hate comment, go ahead. In the meantime, keep reading, keep listening, keep watching, learn more. See you, brother.
See ya.